Hey, hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe and doing well during this COVID-19 period. And thank you for taking the time off your busy schedule to join me on a 40 minutes sharing of my journey in discovering leaf node trees. So before I go on explaining more on my experience on getting to know about leaf node trees, here is a short introduction of myself. I'm currently a year 3 student in Republic Polytechnic and am pursuing a diploma in outdoors and adventure learning. On top of that, I'm also currently on an internship with Better Trails to further develop my skills and knowledge of being an outdoor practitioner. So I've attached a few images in relation to what I do as an outdoor student. So as you can see, there are images of me and my classmates on a kayaking trip, as well as challenge course images that was taken in RP. So the challenge course is usually used for us students to apply and learn using the skills that we're being taught during the certain modules to put into practice. So through the diploma of being in the outdoor adventure learning, I have actually studied many modules. So throughout all these modules, it actually requires me to pick up new skills, gain wider knowledge, or enhance current ones. Being as an outdoor practitioner, there are two aspects that we actually look into outdoor education. So we actually have the adventure side and as well as the environmental side. So you must be wondering how all these are even related to leaf node trees. Well, I'm sure everyone has their own unique past experiences in getting to know about leaf node trees or even why you're here today. It could be an interest in the outdoors, or you're from an eco-friendly club, or you stumble upon this video by chance. Well, for me, I'm not a professional, but based on my vicarious experience in my journey of discovering leaf node trees, I had to study a module based on environment education, where I was introduced to leaf node trees. However, a module in RP usually lasts about 13 weeks, and the lesson which I had on leaf node trees was just a very brief introduction, and it led me to wanting to know more about it. Thankfully, through my internship with Better Trails, I was able to have the opportunity to fulfill my hunger of learning more about leaf node trees and enhancing my outdoor experience further. So what is environmental education? As I've mentioned earlier on, it is one of the core modules that we actually took in our year one while pursuing the diploma. So it actually is about a learning process that helps people to make them more aware of the ever-changing environment and the associated challenges that comes with it, so that they can develop more skills and take responsible actions of their attitude towards the environment, to be more aware of the impacts that they actually do. On top of that, environment education is also significant in the outdoor education as well, because whatever that we do, it primarily takes place in the natural environment. So this module was actually a very insightful one because it allowed me to recognize the need to use the environment responsibly. So you must be wondering, how does leaf node trees actually links with this module, environment education? In this environment education, I actually have two components that we actually were being taught. So we have the ecosystemic relationship and as well as the ecosystic relationship. Both sounds very chim and very scientific, but in layman terms, ecosystemic, as you can see on the screen, it's food chain or energy pyramid. So it's how one living organism actually uh, depends on ecological climate. Whereas for ecosystic relationship, how we affect the environment and as well as how it affects our quality in living in return, is also one of the reason why it's under environment education. So for short, an example would be the water pollution. So when it comes to water pollution, it is a very common problem around the world that we face. So how does it affect the environment in return affecting ours is that when human litters in the environment unintentionally or intentionally, it can affect the environment. So depending how bad the influence is, it can actually affect the way we get our clean drinking water. So for example, in Singapore, we are able to get our water easily because we have new water and we have imported water. Whereas for some countries, they actually depend on water resources. So if they do not take care of their water resources, it can affect them their accessibility into getting clean drinking water because the filtration and treatment level would be more advanced and difficult. So then now I'm talking to you for about leaf no trace. So what exactly is leaf no trace? Uh, leaf no trace was being introduced to me as it has key principles for us to apply while using the environment to run our programs. So leaf no trace, uh, sorry, just to share on leaf no trace. Leaf no trace is actually a center for outdoor ethics. So just a quick mention about what the organization do is that it focuses on educating people to care more about the outdoors. So reason behind why they choose the education path it is that it felt that it was the most effective and least resource intensive solution in order to protect the land. So as you can see in the image on the slide, there are actually workshops being carried out by Leave No Trees. So just like in Singapore, we have Better Trails, and Better Trails does workshops and programs to actually educate schools and then other organization and also have community outreach to focus on creating a better outdoors for everyone. So for now, I'll be sharing with you the principles of Leave No Trace. It will be a very brief introduction as I want to keep you in suspense and wanting to know more, as well as I have a limited time of only 40 minutes so that you can also jump on board to join Better Trails for future and upcoming programs. So in my opinion, I feel that anyone can read it online, but I feel that it would be better if you had a guide to actually teach you professionally, as well as to be able to enhance your experience further. So for the principles of Leave No Trace, just a brief introduction, there are 7. So for plan ahead and prepare, what is plan ahead and prepare would be knowing the right equipment to bring or having basic planning before you set out on an adventure because successful outings requires good planning and preparation. For travel and camp on durable surfaces, um, this one can be applied when you're actually choosing a place to camp. So if let's say you have a long duration camping, it will be good to look out for suitable spots to set up your tent. In case of a pristine campsite, you can actually shift your tents around so that the grass can actually get sufficient sunlight through your stay. So in case you didn't know what pristine is, pristine means a campsite that has never been touched before. So it's a very clean area to set up anything. Yeah. So for dispose of waste, a short example would be pack in and pack out. So packing in and packing out is actually a habit for people to go about, which means simple things like going to the park, you bring some food and snacks, you know, you want to go for a picnic, but then you do not leave it there. So when you end your picnic, you should actually make sure that you dispose all your stuff, all your litters and your waste properly by uh, emptying out at the rubbish bin instead of just leaving it wherever that you went. So for leave what you find, leave what you find would be passing on the discovery on to those who follow. So I use that sentence is because um, if let's say you find something, like if you find $1, okay, you'll be very excited to pick up that $1. But you can actually choose not to pick it up and you can make someone else's day better. So the same thing applies to the environment. You see a very pretty flower, but you want to bring home and keep it as a memo. So you decide to pluck it and bring it back. But the next person that actually visit the same place might not be able to see the same flower that you picked because of the action that you did. So those are one of the principles that of leave no trace to actually be aware. Yep. And for moving on to the next one, minimize campfire impacts. So for campfires, if you want to know more, we actually have workshops coming on soon and future programs where where our professional trainers will actually share with you ways on minimizing your campfire impacts, because there are a few ways to set up. If I were to share with you with some, it would be using existing fire sites or pit fires, but there are more than just that. So if you actually sign up for our workshop, we actually have uh, the physical product for you to actually see and be able to apply the principles of leave no trace. Where moving on to the respect wildlife. So for respect wildlife, right, the principle, it's very simple. So just like the word respect wildlife, you should never allow wildlife to obtain any food. That's not saying that you shouldn't feed them, but it's not advisable, because the sometimes the food that you give to the wildlife might not be suitable for them because it contains certain ingredients, or it also makes the wildlife very over reliant to the food, which means they won't go hunting on their own, but instead wait for you to come and feed them. And for the last principle, it will be considerate of other users. So by be considerate of how to be considerate of other users is that it's very simple. Respect goes both ways. So if you offer it, it is likely that you will to receive it. So one way how this principle actually can be applied is that it helps you to reduce potential for crowding, conflict, or unnecessary noises. For example, you can actually use a earpiece when you go out for a jog. Don't blast your music because there will be other users at the park. Yeah. So just a very brief introduction on these seven principles. You can learn more in our future programs. So I'll move on to the next one, which is a short story time. So for the story time, actually, I'm gonna share with you my experience of an excursion at BUKIT TIMAH Nature Reserve. So my school, like I mentioned earlier on, I had this module on environment education. My facilitator actually brought us out on an excursion, which is on one of the lessons so that we can actually apply leave no trace in the actual setting, the outdoor setting. So for this case, we actually went to Bukit Timah for our learning journey. And I'm going to share with you some common sightings that we saw during the learning journey trip and how it actually relates to the leave no trace. So for common sighting, there was a plastic ribbon tied to the tree, the litter left behind by visitors, as well as vandalism on the chairs. So we had a lot of discussion over it, and we had two conclusions for the plastic ribbon. It could be used for tagging for park rangers to take note of certain trees, or it could be people that actually went to set up for an event like cross country, and then they decided to do some marking for runners to know the designated routes. So it can be actually a problem. It might not seem like a problem, but it actually is, because you're leaving something that's not supposed to be there, but you left it there. Yeah. So for litter left behind by visitors, it's also another common sighting that we saw at Bukit Timah Nature Reserve, because as you can see in the image, it's actually those takeaway kopitiam bags. So it could be anyone that actually decided to have a short drink and decided to bring it to the park, thinking no one would realize, and they took an easy way to discard it by leaving it there. Yeah, so sometimes things can be intentional and unintentional. So moving on to vandalism on chairs, uh, this one was found at it was found at one of the rest point at Bukit Timah. So Actually, my friend actually spotted it because it was right at the far end. So usually, I think not many people would walk past there, but my friend stumbled upon it. So it could be left by the visitors because the chair by itself wouldn't have such markings. And um, this is also a common sighting, not just in Bukit Timah, but I'm sure that if you've seen in certain parks or nature reserve, there are actually vandalism on the trees as well. Like people would carve out their names just for some significant purpose, like boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. And it can also be seen on common areas like your housing estate, the playgrounds, the common areas where you sit to chit chat. So how all this actually falls under leave no trace is that um you're not respect for vandalism on chairs. Okay, let me touch on vandalism on chairs. So how does it fall under the principle of be considerate to other visitors? That principle can be used as if, let's say, I'm going to the park and I decided to leave such markings. Okay, another person that comes after me would see such markings and it will not have a very good impression of the place, which means the second person that coming could be a tourist and maybe he's just on a trail and adventure in Singapore and realize that there are such vandalism done on the rest points or just leaving marks. So you actually affect how people would to view the place and also make their experience less uh, meaningful. So to talk about how did discovering all these L&T changed my perspective in being in the outdoors, I've classified them into 3 points, which is knowledge and skills, values and habits. So for knowledge and skills, it would be how I would actually plan my future programs. So since I'm an outdoor student, I have to run some programs during certain modules in order to pass my practical. So how L&T, the discovery of L&T in year one actually made me be more aware in how I craft my programs. In a sense that I would have to look out for a proper environment to run my programs that I won't cause heavy impact to. Or for next adventure would be planning the right equipment and logistics for the program. So it actually enhanced my knowledge and skills in being more prepared in being in the outdoors. So for values, taking care of the environment would be one of the things that also helped me change my perspective. So for value, it makes me actually value our green spaces more because after learning how much human can make a major impacts to the environment, it actually make me value the green spaces more than previously. Yeah. So for example would be I have a profound interest in kayaking. So when I go for an expedition, right, I usually tend to see litters that can be floating on the sea. So for example, if let's say I'm kayaking in Sembawang, so there will be litters that were litter found at the beach and as well as on the seaside. So it could be either from Singapore or it could be from Malaysia that float over. So it doesn't matter because how I actually how I actually take care of the environment in my way would be I would tend to pick up the litters and then put it onto my kayak and then kayak back. So I feel that it is just the small things that make a huge difference. For instance, if let's say I were to leave the litter there, it will continue to cause more water pollution to the living species and other users to the sea. So I feel that after discovering L&T, it made me more aware. Like last time when I went for kayaking, I would see it flow, but then I would let it flow past me instead of having the need to go and kayak and then pick it up. Thinking that it wouldn't make as much difference as I have discovered right now. Yeah. So habits as well. To touch on habits, uh, it will be daily practices. So for daily practices, like for instance, right now, I will actually choose a more durable surface when it comes to walking or running. So I'll be more considerate to other people in the park. I don't blast my music when running. Instead, I choose to use the earpiece. So how can we practice leave no trace apart from expedition and trails? I'm sure there are some people that do not have the time to go all the way to the trails, to go exercise at the parks. But there are some ways that you also can try to practice leave no trace. So some leave no trace factors that I actually thought that it would help, and I mean that you can actually apply, it would be to change your daily habits. So for changing of your daily habits, I have the walk to the bus stop. So for instance, a simple walk to the bus stop can also make a difference. I'm guilty of also taking a shortcut. That's why after discovering about LNT, it actually made me feel, in a sense, that it made me do the right thing by walking on a more durable surface instead of walking on the grass. So how you can skip the shortcut is, in short, just take the longer route, take the bus. Okay, instead of walking over that small patch of grass, you've been trampling over it. The more you walk over it and other people follow you to walk, it's gonna compact the soil, which means it's gonna create a bald spot on the plants and the grass. And the grass will actually it will also impact the environment somehow, because the nutrients are unable to seep through the soil and the remaining grass will not be able to survive. So planning on your next adventure would be also another way that leaf nutrients can be applied. Um, like I've mentioned the 7 principles earlier on, how you can actually be prepared is that since now is a COVID-19 situation, you can actually stay home and plan for your next adventure. So using the principle of plan ahead and prepare, you can already apply it right now. You can find resources on your next trip, what to look out for, what to bring, the duration, and everything. Yeah. And then moving on for safety, I know that nowadays there has been a lot of otters running around Singapore and they are very cute. Okay, I would want to take a picture of them too, but practice a safe distance. So for this, there's a special thing called use the rule of thumb. So it's also one of the hidden things that you can actually learn if you go for the workshop, but we are sharing with you right now. But there are more than just this. So you should actually go and sign up. Then what is the rule of thumb? So the use of the rule of thumb is that your thumb should actually, the size of your thumb should cover the animal. So if it covers the animal, when you paste it and it covers the animal, it actually shows that you are in a safe distance in between the animal and yourself. Yeah. So if let's say you apply to otters, I won't tell you that it's not advisable for you to go and take a selfie with the otters, but it would be better that if you apply the rule of the thumb, you respect the otter's privacy, the space, and also protect your own safety in case, in any sorts of violence, it gets aggressive. So that's how LNT can also be applied. So the last one will be exercising. So for for now, I know that it's hard to go out, but when you're doing exercise, right, LNT can also be applied when you become more aware of the natural surrounding, which means if let's say you go to a park, you you don't take a shortcut, you don't create your own shortcut. Instead, you walk on a durable surface, or as well as respecting other people that are using the park as well. You know, use your designated lane instead of blocking, using the entire space just to exercise. Make sure that there's sufficient space for people to walk past. Okay, sorry about that. So this slide is on seashells. So why I actually share with you on seashells is that it's something that is really small and that I think everyone overlooks it. So for seashell, discovering LNT, right, has made me be aware of the small actions that I do and that I've also take for granted as well. So the seashells can be found in your beaches or like on the sands, on the shore where you normally would. So it doesn't have to be when you're out on an adventure. It could be just on a holiday. For instance, if let's say you go overseas and you went to this lovely beach, maybe Bondi Beach and in Sydney, and you realize that, oh, there's actually a very pretty seashell and you wish to bring it back. So this pretty seashell, right? If let's say everybody had the same mindset, which I think they would, and they were to bring it back, then one day another person that comes might not be able to see that seashell that you brought back. So like what I've mentioned earlier on about passing on the gift of discovery. So it can also be applied in this manner whereby you go to the beach and there has been a lot of seashells that you wish to bring it back. So one way that is also good for you to actually still have a image of it, to bring it back, to keep with you. So uh instead of bringing it back, you can actually take a picture of it and observe it. Yeah. And okay, moving on, I will be sharing with you some case study as well. So for the case study, I have actually prepared two. So for the first one, it's on Bukit Timah Nature Reserve closure. So this closure actually took place in 2014 and it actually reopened in 2016. So for these 2 years, what the government actually did was they actually set aside funds to restore certain parts of Bukit Timah. They did not made it feel entirely man-made, but to protect it from further damage, they actually created boardwalks for visitors to continue walking on it. So as you can see, one factor that I would actually zoom in today would be the increase of visitorship. So as the visitorship has actually increased over the years, but during the year of from 2014, from the year previously to 2014, there has been an increase from 100,000 to 400,000. So it was being closed for restoration, like I mentioned, where they built boardwalks. Because there has been a lot of visitor, right? So there'll be a lot of people using the same path. And when there's be a lot of people using the same path, they'll be trampling over the same patch of grass, and it will also result in certain things. So what I'm trying to say is that if you can see the slide, there's two conditions. There's the bad trail condition as well as the healthy trail condition. So for the bad trail condition, it, this is usually this usually happens when there's a lot of people that walk continuously on the same path. Like I mentioned about compacted soil. How does compacted soil come about? This is when nutrients or rainfalls are unable to seep through the soil because so many people has been trampling over the same spot, which leads to loss of vegetation. That's why there's a bald spot on the grass. And for the healthy trail condition, by right, it's supposed to look like that, so that you can still enjoy, being out in the environment, but also knowing that you won't affect the environment that much if you're using the correct route. So the increase of visitorship can also cause certain problems. That's why I've actually brought up the litters that was being left behind. So it's actually a common sight not just in Bukit Timah but in other nature reserves and other parks. So visitors, like I said, they bring snacks, they bring food. They can be hungry, they want to eat halfway through their trekking or hiking. And most of them are actually unintentional because based on research that L&T has also said that 9 out of 10 people are unaware that what they do actually impacts the environment. So that's why they want to promote leave no trace ethics to teach people and use education to show the importance of how a small action can actually impact the environment. Yeah. So the visitors actually leave behind litter. So it also falls under leave no trace principles if you realize, under dispose of waste properly, don't leave items that don't belong there, have the habit to bring it back. And the compactor soil was also something that I've talked about previously on the bad trail condition. So this is why the government actually made the boardwalk. So if you realize some nature reserve that you actually go to, you walk when you walk on the trail, you'll be stepping on the tree roots. So if most people will not know, when they step over the tree roots, they find it as like a step, but actually in a sense that it affects the tree and also the growth of the tree. So if you imagine continue stepping onto the roots of the tree and then the soil continue to be compacted, the tree might not be able to receive the nutrient, as well as it will not be able uh, to stay on for more years. So can you imagine if everyone do not practice good habits in the outdoors? It will not we will not be able to sustain our green spaces, and in future to come, maybe in 10 years, 20 years, we might not have the same amount of green spaces. That's why we want to preserve as much as we can right now. Okay, moving on to the last sharing would be case study on the coronavirus and green monkey rampage. So I'm not sure if some of you have seen it, but for the coronavirus season, right, it actually stopped most countries' economy and how they run the country, how they run their daily lives. So in Thailand, this image was actually taken in Thailand. So the thing was, Thailand relies a lot on tourism, and I mean other countries does that as well. But for this case, most the COVID-19 situation have left the hotels in Thailand to be empty, and there has been a lack of tourists in coming over to Thailand. So, and on top of that, their markets are also closed. So all these monkeys actually came out, right, due to the starvation and the fact that they were not being fed by the tourists. I'm sure that if you went to other countries, you will actually have the opportunity to go and feed, animals along the way, like how people go to MacRitchie and you see the common monkeys, right? And then they decided to go and feed the monkeys. So this is what happens when you choose to go and feed the wildlife. The wildlife will become super reliant on having food given to them instead of using their natural instinct to go and hunt for their own food. So in this case in Thailand, since there wasn't any tourists that was able to flock to Thailand, the monkey came out and had a so-called riot onto the streets. Yeah. So that's how actually our small actions can also make an impact to the environment and as well as the wildlife. So to sum it up, what I've said earlier on before I continue is that I would like to share my own opinion. So far after discovering more about LNT, it actually made me value the environment a lot. You know, it goes to show that how small things can make a huge difference, and that I have the power to influence my friends. So it will be good that you can also take the time to reflect, and then decide to actually make a difference and change of habits. So if you're interested, please do join us for a workshop. We have workshops on leave no trace awareness. So there'll be professional guides to actually talk more about the principles and to show you the physical settings. And yep. So moving on to the next slide would be keeping your mind occupied. Uh, I know you'll be very bored at this period, so I've decided to actually share with you some ways that to keep yourself occupied. So for now, you can actually plan your next adventure. So you see, right, you can already apply leave no trace, like what I shared into this. So you can go online. So everything's online right now. You can go and use Google Satellite. You can also take a look at the natural setting itself and to plan an adventure in advance. So once all these are hopefully over, you can go out and go for your adventure. So read our new trails to explore. There has so many links that you can actually go and see. You can read up on M Parks, you can read up on the Smart Local. They have discovery trails that can be found in Singapore. And some of them are Instagrammable because everything now wants to be nice for pictures. So there are actually certain shows that you can actually look about. And lastly, we'll be checking out other adventure sharing session, which I'm going to share with you. So we have upcoming talks. Upcoming talks on the 23rd May as well as on the 30th May. So for these two, one will be carried out by Ken Singh, which is the co-founder of Better Trails. He's gonna bring you on an adventure on how he actually had his Alaska kayak-based cleanup. I'll leave it to him to share with you more. And for the 30th May would be the Everest Base Camp adventure. So for the Everest Base Camp adventure, it will be shared by Jia Jian, one of our associates as well. So in case you cannot remember the dates, just take note that it will be on a consecutive Saturday. So after today's sharing, the next Saturday will be by Ken Singh, and the following Saturday will be by Jia Jian at 4 p.m. So to end off the entire streaming session, I'm so thankful to have you to watch me share all these, as it's the first time and I'm very nervous. So if you love being in the outdoors, join us for our upcoming programs. And I've actually shared with you our social media links. So do please take a look at our Instagram, like our Facebook page. And we have also set up a new YouTube account to keep you entertained. So we actually have tutorials on the YouTube account to get you through this COVID-19 period. Yep. So thank you for uh, watching me this sharing session.